Development Code, section 1.09.02 is the definitions. Section 2.03.03 on the table of uses. This has to do with event centers and strip mining, as well as we're adding sections 4.03.32 for supplemental standards for event centers and 4.03.33 for supplemental standards for strip mining. I'd like to ask the qualifying questions of City Council. Have any of these applicants, which is the city, contributed at least $250 to any campaigns or election during the past 2 years?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a property interest that would be affected by the proposed text amendments, whether it is a positive or negative impact?
No. No.
Do you or any members of your family have a financial interest in a business entity that has a property interest in a real property that would be affected by the proposed text amendments, whether it be a positive or negative impact?
No.
What I'd like to do at this time is ask Mr. Danny Wallace from our Department of Community Development come up and kind of explain these two sections. Danny, if you just take them kind of one at a time as far as, starting with the definitions, talk about the table of uses, and then you can go on into the supplemental standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all, Vice Mayor, Council, members of the public. So like Rob said, this has to do with event centers and strip mining. First, we identified definitions. Definition of an event center, banquet, or meeting hall means a use which provides rental space for group functions such as, but not limited to, wedding parties, conferences, service club meetings, and similar gatherings, along with the catering of food and or alcoholic beverages. And then surface mining means any activity constituting all or part of a process for the removal of mineral or other solid matter for sale or for processing or for consumption in regular operation of business. On the table of uses, banquet and event centers will be amended to general business and commercial downtown zoning, and surface mining will go into suburban agriculture and heavy industrial. They will also receive supplementary standards. So I want to kind of go through these. We're going to do event centers first. We've had a lot of input, as you all know, and discussion with community development, with our city clerk, with Rob, with Bruce Green, with the Urban Redevelopment Agency, with Abby from our Main Street program, and from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And with all of these heads together, these are the suggestions for the standards. And I'm just going to kind of go through them, just summarize them for you, okay? So banquets and event centers, meeting halls, they're intended for use for private social events and are not intended for use as public event facilities or entertainment facilities. So therefore, the general public shouldn't be admitted or charged a fee to be admitted. Attendees shall be limited to invited guests. No fee or cover charge shall be required to enter an event center. The provisions for this section in the ordinances will exempt federal income taxation organizations, nonprofits, 501c, 501d, 501e, 644 and 401 corporations. The hours of operation from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., and that's 7 days a week. If alcohol is going to be available on the premises, then a licensed caterer shall be required. And each property will have to be evaluated for the alcohol standards for distances to churches and daycares and schools and the housing authority for each event center that's proposed.
for the public comment and ask this public hearing to be closed.
The public hearing is closed. All right, so we will call the workshop now to order. Thank you, Rob, and thank you guys for helping with that. We'll call this workshop to order. I will like to say, Mayor Smith had a family emergency. We hope that everyone is okay with that, but we want to send our thoughts and prayers to them as they deal with that. And I'm going to be leading the show today. So we'll move right into the old business and discussion of solid waste contract P.
Okay, Vice Mayor, and Council, if you allow, is Chief Hyman in the back? Okay, if Chief Hyman could come forward, we wanted to introduce someone to you that's new to the department. So Chief, take a minute to do that.
I made it. Good evening, Council. I would like to introduce to you Lieutenant Chris Lucky. Lieutenant Lucky is our new Chief Investigator for the Police Department. Lieutenant Lucky has over 24 years of law enforcement experience. He has served as a Chief of Police. He's worked a drug unit commander, and he has been detached to the DEA during the time he was with his drug unit, and has 14 years, for the past 14 years, has worked at the Grady County Sheriff's Office. He was in the last 2 years of that, he was second in command, and he came to work with us, and he's, keep fogging up. He came to work with us, and he's working in investigation, and he's been here for 2 weeks now, and he's really bridging the gap. We're looking at making some changes, and I think he's the person that's going to be able to help us do it. And I explained to him about some of the things he had to do, and he's already jumped on the entering auto, Mr. Folk, so he's going to get that stopped.
You don't believe everything the chief tells you?
But yes, but we're glad to have him, and he comes with the experience. We wanted somebody to run the investigation that had some supervisory experience, and he comes with that. And so we're glad to have him, and I know he's going to be an asset to our community.
Absolutely.
Good. So I wanted you to know and recognize him. And the first week he started, Lieutenant helped us with the situation we had at Brookfield Muse. So he and the chief worked that scenario. So he started from day one with a serious situation for our community. So I wanted to introduce you to him, and he's going to do great things with the chief. So glad to have you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Under old business, the discussion of solid waste contract at your table, I did provide you a handout, and what I'd like to do is just kind of run through some summary information for you. Obviously, we've been talking about solid waste and what we are doing, what we could do for a couple of years now. So, to start for summary, we've had an original contract with Golden Environmental that, if you remember, was set to expire December 27th, 2018. So we started looking at this. We did have some service concerns, and you made the decision in January that we should send out an RFP for sanitation services. We did that, and in March, each bidder was to give us some prices, and again, we had 4 companies to submit the bids, and the low bidder was Ryle Environmental. So it took us a couple months to talk through that and understand where we were. You made the decision. We changed the service levels to every week for yard trash and bulk, which is probably the smartest thing we could have done, and it worked. And you made the decision to keep Golden Environmental. In doing so, the rate and increased levels went from $15.91 to $19.41, and we did a 1-year contract with Golden Environmental. So in September, that 1-year contract was brought forward as a discussion, as it was set to expire in December of this year. So Ricky and I talked with Richard. We had a good conversation, talked about expectations and service, anything that he saw. He wasn't a big fan of a one-year extension contract. He wanted a 3-year contract. I communicated that to the Finance Committee and to the Solid Waste Committee, and the 3-year wasn't the issue, but Richard also, he said that he was ready for a 50-cent per home increase because of some additional garbage that he's collecting. So, you know, we set the bar high in the community. We went from 15 up to 19, and it hasn't been a year yet. So a 3-year contract with 50 cents per home. Again, the committee, we talked about this, and it really wasn't very palatable as of a couple weeks ago. So again, with the Finance Committee, we talked about it. And, you know, looking from a business side of it, again, there's many variables we could have taken, but some of you asked me to look again at that low bidder for the RFPs and ask if their price was still valid. So I did that. I did talk to Ryland Environmental, and they did confirm, because the prices weren't a year old yet. The company did tell me that their price is still valid, and that they would, if given the opportunity, provide a 5-year price fixed contract for the city of Tifton. So we again talked about that, and Ryland also explained that they would be real interested in partnering with the city of Tifton for the transfer station. So value, again, it's my job to provide you options, and this is obviously a big business decision, and we need to make smart decisions. But value, when you talk about value, when you talk about service and what the residents provide in the way of payment, they expect a certain level, but it also comes with what we have to do as a city and what charges and what costs that we run into. So value, looking at the two side by side, again, we could keep on going, but that would, if we did the 50-cent increase, that would, the price per home would go $19.91, and then compared to Ryland, it would be $19.33 for 5 years, which does include $1 for billing. So carts, trucks, that'd be part of the package, but Ryland also commented that they would be interested in establishing a regional office here in Tifton, that they would run out of Tifton for their other cities. They would have the drivers and staff, but add 10 new jobs here, and they in turn would become a local company. So again, value, when you talk about side by side, it's pretty close, the same. Quality service, obviously that's their highest priority. They've earned contracts in the southeast, in the vicinity, so they know what they're doing. Originally from Dublin, but they're primarily here in the south. So again, I talked about value side by side. You're looking at prices, you're looking at value, what it means for our residents, but also some of the things that I've been talking about for the last 6 months is the transfer station. And as you know, the landfills, we've got about 7 years to go on that landfill, and we're going to be probably pretty close to capacity. So this footprint, we have to make a decision. I can tell you the costs have been really high this last year and a half with maintenance, buying new equipment, and trying to keep up with EPD regulations and post-closure. So city side, again, value for us, we've got to look at how we could determine a good path forward. And just to get a little statistic, we currently have $11.5 million in post-closure funds. If the landfill remains open, I'm assuming that amount's going to double. It's going to put a lot of pressure on us. We're really going to have to watch this closely if we don't make some decisions about the landfill itself. So again, I'm going 2 years fast forward. So if we have to build a new landfill cell, we're looking at $3.5 million just for starters. Transfer station, $600,000, and we have a place to put it already. So again, I look at value, I look at what I'm bringing to you as options and recommendations, and the transfer station has to go hand in hand with the collection contract, in my opinion, because it really fits. We've never had that option, and obviously we don't want three people doing different things. within the city with regards to service, one for landfill, one for our transfer station, one for collection. It's much easier, very much streamlined if you do it that way. So the next page, I just gave you a little picture of what the transfer station, that's what they look like. I mean, it's a pretty basic building. We could do this on site, and the current pad, we could build such a type of facility. It would only require a permit by rule, so we don't have any regulations or EPD to climb through. And then, you know, value added again is talking about host fees. So if we build a transfer station, all the waste, instead of going on top of the hill, goes into this building, and it's taken to another MSW or municipal solid waste landfill for disposal, where we don't have to put it in our airspace. If we host a transfer station, we would be eligible for host fees from the company, that along with a long-term fixed price for us in the county for disposal costs, so we could control our costs going forward. And you talk about 10 years from now, we could really identify fixed prices for tipping fees, which hopefully would be at a lower rate than the $42 than we do it now. As I said, Ryland Environmental is very, very interested in partnering with this. And the last page is our current site. That's where the transfer station would go. But again, we're going to include the county. But again, I bring all this value to you because we really at a crossroad to make a decision what's best for the city. And again, this is a business smart decision. And I think you have all the material and data that you need, and I'll entertain any questions, and I'm ready to provide a recommendation if you are ready.
So Ryland's going to use this as their regional hub,
They will.
and they'll bring trash in from their other sites that they bring, and then transfer it and take it to a landfill somewhere else.
That's correct.
They're going to pay us
They'll pay us.
something to do that.
Right.
So that's additional revenue, and.
It is. That's what's known as a host fee. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the hosting thing, so, okay.
What type of assurances do we have that Ryland is actually going to help us with the transfer station? Is that going to be included in the contract?
Assurance that they would what?
Help us with the transfer station? I think it says they are interested in establishing something with the, partnering with us with the transfer
Right.
station? Is that going to be actually included in the contract?
Yeah, I think there could be a whole paragraph for that. Absolutely.
So do we know that's going to be in the contract, or we guessing?
No, I've spoken to them a number of times, and they've committed to that.
Okay. Also, I know we talked to Mr. Golden as well, and we reached out to Ryland Environmental on the second time to see if the numbers stayed the same. Did we reach back out to Mr. Golden to see if his thing adjusted as well to come back? Did we reach back to him as well? If we reached back out to Ryland to see if that number was still the same?
Well, Councilman, I just think we've been at this a very long time, and realistically, I had a conversation, Ricky Abbey and I had a conversation with Mr. Golden. We had good conversations talking about price, and I don't think there is anything more to say when, you know, I was told, again, I'm passing information on that we would do a 3-year deal with a 50-cent increase. So it's not, I just don't see as really my job to go and try to intercede with companies. I'm here to bring you the best value and the best business deal for City of Tifton.
Mm-hmm. So can we get something, I guess, from Ryland saying that this transfer station is going to be actually included with the contract, or is that?
Well, if it's your
we got the
decision,
price, but we don't have the guarantee in the transfer.
if it's your decision, we could get that in writing, absolutely. Again, it's a two-part decision, one for collection, one for transfer station. I think they hinge on each other. I was very specific when I talked to Ryland about their interest in the transfer station, and they said absolutely we'd be fully involved in it. That would probably include costs, shared costs. That would include contracts, long-term contracts for us and the county. I think that would include host fees that were specified on tonnages coming in that transfer station and going out. But I think what we're doing is protecting the controlled cost for the landfill the City of Tifton and Tift County owns. So on one hand, we could offset some costs. On another hand, we protect having to, invest in another cell or look at, taxpayer monies to increase fees all the time. So this is a way to do that. And again, we haven't had that option. So strictly from a business standpoint, I don't have any opinions on, who's better. But just from a value standpoint and a business decision, I think it's very clear.
Well, and a couple of things. We went up 350. I'm not interested in going up anymore, period. And this transfer station, to me, sounds like the way to go. The cost avoidance of this $3.5 million, I mean, is just outrageous. So from a clearly business, financial, what's best for the taxpayer and for the residents of the city of Tifton, to me, that it just makes a lot of sense.
Right. So
Yeah, one of the things that, the finance committee had talked about was there's got to be a value aspect to this. It's just not, it's more than just price. This thing's got to be, it's not just the price of the contract. What avenues do we have? We've had conversation after conversation with the county about the landfill. We've already asked EPD to extend the useful life. They've done that, I want to say, to 12 years, about 5 years ago, so we're looking at about 7
Right,
years on
that's right.
that. Talking with other commissioners, a transfer station, and talking with Mr. Carter. A transfer station is in the best interest of ours. I don't think building a new cell is something that they're interested in doing, and we're not going to go and acquire that debt on our, credit rating. I think, we have to look at just more than price on this thing. But we got $11.5 million right now in that.
for post-closure, yes.
And you're saying that it could be 23 million?
Very easy. If we don't make a move and we continue to bury garbage, it's going to raise that because of the post-closure requirements just from an EPD standpoint. So I think, and I think I provided to everyone in the email. Ryland did put everything in writing. And I think the transfer station deal is still very, very fresh, but I think that could be well committed to if that's what you want to do. I think the finance committee could be involved in that, but they're ready to go to work and make it happen.
All right. I think, go ahead and say something.
Richard Ponte,
The transfer thing, I have not even been asked about the transfer station. I have a permit by rule transfer site on the south of 75 and Union Road. Been there for 20 years. I was not asked one thing about a transfer station. I had that when the city was going to go and being part of the Chris County Solid Waste Authority in anticipation of that. So that thing's sitting there, been sitting there for 20-something years. I was not asked one thing about that. We have 7 years at least on the landfill. That we surely ought to utilize that airspace. Yeah, you'd be wasting it if you didn't use it. I guess I'm kind of overwhelmed there with of that. I was not even asked anything about a transfer station. Yeah, I can go build one tomorrow. But I'd be leery of going down the transfer station road because anyone that's around here that's either adjacent county or 2 away, it's a good $10 to $15 a ton higher than our $42 a ton. It's $57 in Worth County. It's $59 in Ben Hill County. And they both utilize transfer stations. Okay? Then most of your heavy industrial is moved out of their other ways instead of through the transfer station. I think it would be a very serious thing to move to a transfer station when I had 7 years of life left, paid for. You still have to place it, okay? But that would be, I would not suggest that. I'd utilize my 7 years, and then I would be moving in that direction. Wow. I was not even asked a question when I met with the city manager and Ricky about a transfer station, and that was a part of the contract. The reason I have 50 cents on this thing for the next 3 years, since the COVID has been upon us, I've experienced probably 15% increase in landfill of residential due to people at home. The first couple of months, everybody wanted to clean out their garage, their attic, whatever, redo this and put it out there on the street for us to get it. That increased. It's still there. People, those tonnages have not reduced any. Okay, our commercial has come back up. So I placed a 50 cent on there to hedge against unforeseen out in the future. I have no idea what's going to happen with the COVID, okay? But if we go back to a lockdown, that just shifts it right to the residential. Our commercial was cut in half those first 2 months. You just sliced it right off the top. Shifted to residential. Residential to a fixed price, okay, versus commercial that's at a volume price, okay? Fixed, volume on commercial, okay, that handles and that moves there, but fixed on the residential, and we had yard waste that went up from just everybody wanting to clean up the yard. I would surely, I would like the opportunity, if you will, for the transfer station, okay? I mean, if that's where you are, you know, I'll build you one. I don't need to be a partner. I mean, and you need to do your homework around where that is going to the landfill that would receive it, okay? The marketplace is changing in South Georgia. Okay, there's only one that's close enough right now that would be in Valdosta that just was acquired by Waste Management, okay? And when Waste Management gets into town, it's their way or no way, okay? There are some that are 100 miles away that you could go to other national companies. But I believe it would be very prudent that we look to all of our options at the landfill for sure. You know, you even have some that I believe ours is a very good candidate to go back to our pre-Subtitle D landfill, dig those sales up, put them in our current Subtitle D sale, and reclaim that as sales, and use that footprint and see where we are to where we would continue to go on. You know, it seems odd that you'd go dig up a landfill that was prior to Subtitle D, but it's done all over the country, because that volume then would move to the Subtitle D, and you'd move into another footprint. But that's here and there. But I would love to have the extension of being at the table on the transfer station at the talks of that.
Council, again, Richard, we've had many conversations, and we did the RFPs. We've talked about the landfill extensively. We've been talking about the transfer station for 1.5 years. So again, sometimes we have to seek things out as options. Other times, options are brought to us. And I guess, you know, in the garbage business, if we knew about the transfer station some, you know, years ago when we first started talking about this, I think it would have been a very easy conversation. So again, it's always at the 12th hour where we have to decipher where we are. I'm laying facts out to you. I don't have any problem with Richard. I think we've done a lot in the last couple of years, and from a business standpoint, it's talking about the landfill, that's called reclaiming. And to reclaim old non-subtitle D, very, very costly to get it to the right place. The 6 years, 7 years, 8 years of landfill airspace, yes. Is it valuable? Absolutely. And we could continue to work on that. It doesn't go away. So we could have a dual plan, but I can tell you that that the costs are overwhelming. And it's easy to talk about it on the front end from a collection standpoint. It's easy to talk about it. From a practical standpoint, with the municipal running a landfill, it's very, very difficult, very challenging. And I will tell you that they offer to me, and again, I'm not going to divulge this, but there has been a long-term solid waste MSW, municipal solid waste contract struck that we could probably enjoy the benefit of it for 10 years plus. So I've done my homework, and I know what it means to run a landfill. I know what it means to run a collections operation, and I know what it means to offer options that make smart business decisions. So I think I did that, and again, what's best for the city of Tifton, I don't have any bad feelings. I want to make sure that we could talk about a lot of things, but we have not had discussions about certain things over the last couple of years, and I would ask why. So again, sometimes I go to it, sometimes things come to us, and with those relationships, obviously is what's best for our government. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council?
It's going to come up in the in the call meeting, so we can have
Yeah,
further
well,
discussion then if we want to.
Do we have any, all right, here, let me ask you this.
And Ricky here too, excuse me, Ricky Hobby's here too, so he's been doing this a long time, just the same. So if you have any other questions, he'll be willing to share that with you.
I believe we actually have someone who's wanting to speak. He's got his hand raised. That's why I'm saying, I mean,
Okay.
Does council mind if public comment be made or not? I guess that's going on behalf of council.
I don't know, well, that's up to you, Vice Mayor. Sometimes we get into trouble. But
Well, let's do this. Under the, under the special call meeting, could we add public comment to that? Okay, we'll do that under the special call meeting. Okay.
Fair enough.
Let's do that.
Is there any,
Move forward with the
any
workshop.
questions about I lined them up side by side for you. I mean, as far as price, fixed versus this, and again, just making sure we understand what that is. So if there's anything else that you think of, please ask, and I'll be glad to answer it.
Okay, all right, so let's move to new business. This is the request for, to purchase a ladder truck for the fire department by Chief Bennett and Pete.
Okay, Chief?
Vice Mayor, Council, did y'all receive your packets
They did.
about the ladder truck? So, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. We've got a 1989 E1 95-foot platform. It's 31 years old. It's done its duty. We've repaired it and repaired it and repaired it every year just to be able to pass the recertification test. It no longer can do it. It will cost more to recertify it than what it's worth. It's got an open cab. You know, you can only put 2 people in the front. You can't put anybody in the rear of the truck, so it's basically useless to anyone else. I talked to a company in Alabama today about, what could we do? Is there any way we can salvage any money out of this? He said, the only way you can get around $15,000 would be if you was to get it recertified. I said, well, it's going to cost almost that to get it recertified, so that's a moot point. We could do a total rebuild on it. We could spend about $600,000, but it's still a 1989 ladder truck, no warranties. So we're in a bad situation. We need this truck to hospital, all the motels that we have, TIF towers we go to frequently. So we have a 75-foot Quint. 75-foot Quint was bought before I was chief. So it's just like TIF towers. If you get out of the collapse zone, 75-foot quint won't even reach it. So it's basically useless to us in that. It's great for residential homes and fires, and that's what we use it for mostly. You get ISO points for it and the 95, but the 102. So it's a need, a necessity, and I'm asking you at this time that, could we move forward with purchasing this ladder truck?
Chief, before that, let me just add to, we had a ladder truck budgeted next year, and when this spare went out, I asked the chief to go to work and bring me some options. A new build would be probably a year plus to get one built, and probably $250,000, $300,000 more than what's on the table. So that was a little spooky for him, being a year and a half out. That was a touchy situation. He found another demo that was not a demo, but a used ladder truck that was a couple years old. He was not comfortable with, and there's no warranty. So again, you pay $600,000-$700,000 and you end up putting a lot of money into it. That didn't make sense. So I commend him for searching Georgia and actually found one that was a demo unit, 6,000 miles. It's the same kind of truck that he would have ordered if we ordered a brand new one. So it was a lucky time for us. And then, Chief and his team did their homework. So on the financing side, we're ready to go with this. We can handle it. And if you approve it, then obviously our fire department will be in tip-top shape.
Let me ask you this, Chief, being that we had our fire issue many years ago, I've learned a lot about the reason for us having a ladder truck, because we have so many ISO rated buildings in our community. When it doesn't meet its certification, does that truck immediately go out of service?
It's out of service.
So we don't have a ladder truck right now?
We do not.
Okay.
If I was to use that truck right now and someone was to get hurt, then the liability would be completely on the city.
So can we get this truck tomorrow?
Well, we can get it on its way tomorrow, for
I mean,
sure.
Are we gonna operate a fire department or not? If the
Absolutely.
answer is yes, and we need to have this truck to operate the fire department, and that's yes,
Oh, there ain't no doubt.
then get the thing here tomorrow.
Well, as soon as you approve it, obviously the PO is going to launch. Dana's going to has already funding lined up. So we have to put our name on it, make sure we have what's required on it, and it's coming to Tiffin, Georgia.
Good.
Okay, and it's on our call.
You'll approve that tonight,
Okay,
and that thing will be on its way.
good.
Thank y'all. Any more questions?
No. If you're happy with it, I'm happy with it.
Did y'all see you'll see the picture of it?
Yeah, the pictures,
Well,
the pictures on there.
Picture in there.
Yeah, let's don't mess around about the fire truck. Let's go ahead and get the fire truck.
Thank you,
We
John.
need a fire truck. If you can get it tomorrow, buy it tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, here it is right here. That's nice.
It's a good looking machine. I actually got to see it in person, and it was pretty impressive. That's the best they make and the tallest they make, 102 foot.
And that'll reach every building that we have,
That'll
102?
that'll do it.
Good.
Let's just keep messing around about the fire truck. Let's get it. We need it.
Good deal.
Okay?
All right, okay.
Done.
Any other comment?
No, I'm
All
good.
right, we'll move on to review and discussion of FY 2021 LMIG projects. Brother Adam Cobb.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. We are ready to jump into the next round of LMIG. We have, we're almost finished with the FY 2020 LMIG. We still have 4 streets left, mostly waiting on the milling machine to get mobilized here, and then they can mill and start paving. We are looking at FY 2021. We need to start the application process, and basically we're just requesting that you either permit us to start that application process, apply for the grant, and then look at these streets and see if they're the streets that y'all also agree to. These were meticulously looked at. We tried to spread the money out across the districts as well. And if you'll look, there's some financial implications. We're expecting to get around $220,000 from the grant funding. And then we're looking at matching that with around $433,000 And those are estimated numbers, but just wanted to give y'all something to look for. Does anyone have any questions?
When, I mean, because I know on mine, one of them certainly, that Carpenter Road to Davis Road that Pete and I have talked about, that it's
Yes.
in terrible shape, and people are going 55 miles an hour out
Yes.
there. But the other two I need to look at, so when, if there was one that maybe we showed you a different street instead of one of those, when do we need to have that?
I was gonna ask you, if you have any comments, or questions about it, the LMIG is due in December, but if we could get it, if you're comfortable and get us your comments by next meeting, we could go ahead and approve this and get the application done, so we are kind of ahead of the curve. It's not, I don't like to wait till last minute, December, to submit this thing. So take a look at this. Again, it's pretty close to what we did this past year. We've already talked to the county, Jack, and they're, I think, simultaneously want to do the other end from city limits outward. So we're trying to coordinate a little better with the county, and then also Commerce Way. If you notice, if you remember the project that we want to do here at Commerce Way with the streetscape, I added from 3rd Street to 9th Street so we could add the resurfacing of this section in. So I have that covered with that project just the same. So if you see anything, if you will please email myself or Jeff, then we'll certainly take a look at it. But it's a good list, and obviously a lot of streets that are on it are in need.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into the resolution portion of our workshop. A resolution adopting a new employee handbook, Miss Emily Beeman.
While she's taking over, Council, I want to commend Emily for staying with it. This was a long process. Our handbook was very outdated, very antiquated, and left a lot of interpretation from years ago. So she's been working on this steadily, very resourceful, and I think it's a great document, and I'm excited for her to present that to you.
Vice Mayor and Council, in front of you, you will see a binder that says Employee Handbook, City of Tifton. The Employee Handbook and Personnel Policy for the city is a document that is provided to all employees to guide them throughout their employment with the city. The current handbook that we have in place has not been rewritten to include employment law changes since around 2004. An outdated handbook can pose many legal issues upon employment throughout the life cycle of an employee or termination of an employee. In all reality, an employee handbook should be re-looked at every 2 to 3 years to make sure it is compliant. With this document, it was composed within about a 6 to 8 month period, so it was not something that was done overnight. It did take me a really long time. Many resources in other cities were used to compare our policies to other model municipalities, as well as legal oversight. Once the handbook was drafted, a committee was formed to review proposed edits, offer ideas, and other insights for the new handbook. 10 employees is what the committee consisted of. It was department heads, supervisors, employees, and all employees span from 2 years of employment to veteran employees. Failure to update this employee handbook could lead to litigation with employees because of outdated policies as well as inconsistent employment practices. As Pete alluded to, a lot of it was hard to interpret with the old policy, so the new one is pretty straight to the point as far as expectations, benefits, policies, and everything going forward. Should this be approved, it will have to be looked at every 2 to 3 years to make sure we are compliant with employment law, as well as staying competitive with other municipalities to make sure we are a model employer for our employees. Do you have any questions?
Need to read it.
Did you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next resolution, provide for amended alcohol licenses for, looks like several places. Jessica, you want to take Walmart, Olive Garden, and the Walmart Market? Inmark, CVS, and the Friendly Express.
Take all those.
They got to speak up, man.
We can hear you.
Well, these were submitted during the renewal process. The alcohol license were actually due today without any additional late fees and charges. And though, I'll just go through and tell you what the changes are. Staff is recommending approval of all of these licenses. The Walmart, both the neighborhood Walmart and the Super Walmart, had a corporate officer change. So that's why they are on here. The Olive Garden, they have a new manager that has been added. Inmark has a new manager. The CVS identified a new corporate officer. We consider that a licensee. And Friendly Express had a new manager. Staff has reviewed all of those applications, and none of those businesses within the past year, or as long as I've been here, have had any, were cited for any alcohol thing. So we're recommending approval for all of those.
All right, now, these aren't on our special call meeting. Do we need to add these since they're, pretty, can we add them, or do we have?
Regular
Just
meeting.
do it at the regular meeting? Okay, I just didn't know if there's no issues with them, go ahead and get them approved. All right, next would be the ordinance to amend chapter 38, article 3, nuisances. Okey dokey.
Mayor Council, this has been some time in the makings. We have a nuisance ordinance that deals with a lot of different things. Generally, we have vegetation, we have mosquito control, motor vehicles, and unsafe, unfit, uninhabitable buildings. And in reviewing the nuisance ordinance as it relates to things such as vegetation, mosquito control, what we try to do is make these specific divisions more consistent with one another as far as the procedure and the notice for abatement. There was different notices in the vegetation part, different procedures, in the vegetation or the mosquito part. So what we basically did is make all that consistent with the general means by which we abate a nuisance, which is giving somebody a notice, 10 days, to abate the nuisance. If not, then a summons to them to go to municipal court to obtain an order to abate the nuisance. The other thing that we tried to make consistent was that if the property owner does not abate the nuisance, then the city of Tifton can take whatever appropriate action they deem necessary to abate that nuisance. We can either bid it out for somebody to demolish a building, or we can use our own public works to abate the nuisance. If it comes down to the city doing that, then of course that is charged, to the property owner and becomes a lien on their property. So there's not a whole lot of changes, but basically what I've done is make everything consistent as far as the processes. A lot of these sections, particularly the vegetation part, I've deleted because they were really obsolete once I changed the procedure to the general procedure for the abatement of nuisances. So that is really what we've done. We just kind of made all these sections consistent so that, so your notice requirements are the same, your publication dates are the same, and the processes to abate the nuisances are the same. Those are the changes.
All right. Other comments from the council?
No.
All right. Other business, Pete, city manager's report.
Okay, just a couple things, thanks. This Saturday, we are going to have the free scrap tire event at Cato Knight parking lot. So we're going to get the word out, and this is for the city and the county and for residents only. If you have scrap tires, you could bring them here free of charge and drop them off to the trailer. So this was a grant that we did receive, and we've been doing it for a couple years. So I wanted you to know that. Also, congratulations to Emily. She wrote this year's safety grant. We were just awarded that. It's $20,000. That'll go to bulletproof vests and body cams this year, which is a great addition. especially for the money. Also, Chief's Lock It or Lose It program I unveiled last month. We're 1 month into it, and it is, he has seen almost a 50% decrease in calls for entering autos, so it's working. We want to keep up that, the news that please lock it, lock the cars, secure your information, your weapons or items. But, guns are still, they've dropped too, but we're still seeing, guns that are reported stolen, so it's from the vehicles. So, again, it's working, and just the same on the PD. We've started last month. This is our first go at it, fingerprinting at the PD for fingerprinting and releasing people instead of going into the jail. So that program is working successfully, and we're going to continue on working that so we could control our inmate cost.
Could we track that? If we do that, then say there's a cost avoidance by doing it. And I'd be curious to know, as you do these, how much we save over, a year from now. I'd like to look at that and say, okay, we saved X dollars from that.
But I would probably have a pretty good figure by the time we do the budget in February.
Okay.
So that pretty well covers everything. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, let's see here, Mayor, council comments. John, you got anything, bud?
No, I'm just glad to, have my street paved, especially Chambers and 13th. So, I thank you for that, and everything else pretty well all right.
Good deal. MJ, how about you?
No comments, sir.
All right. Jack?
I just want to pick up one thing on that Pete brought up about, the chief and the locket and everything. That, if you're on any of these neighborhood watch pages, that's, everybody and his brother must have Ring cameras because they all want to put those videos, and it is a little disconcerting when I see them walking up I don't have one, but they see them walking up my driveway. But I talked to the chief the other day, and they, the neighbors just want something done. We need more patrols. We need this, that. And I said, well, if you stop and think about it, what's the chances of the policeman driving by and actually seeing somebody? That doesn't happen. But if they, like he said, if you lock your darn car, they won't come back the next time. But if they catch your car unlocked, guess where they're coming the next couple of nights? The same darn car. And so every time I see this, and people say, well, so-and-so stole this. And the first thing somebody asks me is, well, was it locked? And of course the answer is no. And I don't type on there what I want to type on there. But it works, and we appreciate the chief, starting that. But lock your darn car. So.
Just that simple, lock your car.
Lock your car. Yeah. Well, tomorrow is a big day for our country. Election day. No matter who you're going to vote for, we, as a city council, encourage every citizen of the city of Tifton to go out and exercise your right to vote. You will be voting at your precinct, at your specified precinct. So make sure you're in line by 7 p.m. If you are not in line by then, the polls will close. So open from
7.
7?
7
7 to 7?
7 a.m., 7 p.m.
All right, good deal. So 7 to 7, and just go vote. Make your voice heard. And with that, we will call our special call meeting to order. Time frame being 5 minutes. Historically, that's what we've always allowed our public comments to be, is for 5 minutes. So we'll keep a time of that. But each public comment will be 4 or 5 minutes each, and that will be before we begin the new business. So if I can get an approval of the agenda with that addition.
So moved.
Second.
I got a first and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, public comment. Pete, I got a timer here.
Jessica,
Jessica will keep it.
Just
keep the time, please.
Yep, she'll keep it.
Yeah. All right, would anybody like to make public comment? I know you had raised your hand earlier, sir. If you'd like to come up, just state your name and address again, and,
Okay, my name is Norris Klessman, 2209 Gulf Street. I would like the council to honestly take a look at getting rid of Golden. There's been numerous problems with them. You guys are aware of it. Last week, you're our rep, our council person. Nobody in our area had any of the yard waste picked up. It's still sitting there. It was due Thursday. I called and I asked about it, and I was told by the person that answered me, we don't know what our drivers are doing today. I have two pictures here of a dumpster that I had rented that I'll give to you to take a look at. This is the better side of it. We were doing some remodeling in the house. Told them, called on a Tuesday and said, can I get it Friday or next Monday? And it shows up 2 hours later, and the driver goes, they wanted to make sure you got it right now, and that's the best we got. Stuff's falling out of it. It's garbage. We ended up having to put stuff around the corners that are ripped up or rotted out. And when it left, I spent 3 days cleaning up the garbage that fell out of it. I've spoken to Mr. Golden about 2 years ago about some problems, and I wish I would have recorded it, but his answer when I said, you have a contract to pick up yard waste, his first answer was, well, the area you live in produces more than the rest of the city. Then when I pointed out again he had a contract, he goes, I don't care about the frickin' contract. You're frickin' lucky that I'm picking it up. He apparently is not maintaining equipment. He has no backup if he has a problem. We're one of the guilty people that have been doing some house cleaning. We have been making sure cardboard goes out and is tagged as recycle. Depending on which truck gets there first, that's who gets it. So about 60% of the recycled cardboard ends up in the dump. It doesn't go to recycle. You're paying for it to be recycled. We're paying for it to be recycled. They're not doing it. We've picked up in the streets because of the fact trucks apparently have got, I know they have some drains, but we've been out there shoveling up behind them on the street. Talked to the city manager one time with the mayor there. They made a phone call because of the fact for 3 weeks, bags that were put out by somebody that moved were ignored. And Golden's company's answer was, well, the bags are torn. You leave them there for 3 weeks, they will be ripped up. Neighborhood cleaned it up a little bit, and they were basically, Pete made a phone call, and amazingly, somebody showed up to clean it up. We moved here when it was about 6 years ago. The city was handling it. The city did a very good job. We never had a complaint about it. The street, when they picked up the yard waste, was clean. The gentleman that was basically running around doing it for you guys would try to get as much as he can. Now, the gutters are getting clogged up because for some reason, Public Works doesn't know when the garbage is getting picked up, even though it's the same schedule they did before. And B, I think he's understaffed or doesn't give them the equipment to do it. It's left out there. There's a lot out there. When we normally get a pickup, there's about that much left on the street. First time it rains, it's in the gutters. And I've been watching a sewer cleaning truck out roughly in our neighborhood, working like mad to clean up the street, or the gutters. I really think that you need to look at another provider, excuse me. I've lived in areas with transfer stations, and every place I've lived with a transfer station, costs are less. When I lived in Minnesota working for the federal government, the town we were in was having it go to a transfer station run by the county. It was being transported 200 miles, and we were paying half of what you guys are being charged. And that had 2 private companies doing pickup and doing tipping it there. As for the existing landfill, one suggestion I would make is use it for not commercial waste, but general waste from contractors and that. That's what they ended up doing with the dump station in the city I lived in. They were coming up on end of life. Everything was put through the transfer station. If I showed up with junk lumber or bricks or something, they did a quick inspection and it went up, and that's where it went. They're still using the same landfill that at the time that they started using the transfer station was told they had 2.5 years. They're still using it. As for his statement, it's going to cost more to ship it. You're going to have a 5-year contract. It's fixed. And my understanding in talking to Wes is the city's going to make money off of this thing. They're going to get something back. I don't see it coming out of here. And I know he's local. And I know it's old boys. But you really need to look at something else.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
5 minutes is up. Yes, sir. Any other public comment? All right, public comment's closed. We'll go into the business. Approval of source purchase and financing of the ladder truck. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
All right, we got a first. Who's second?
Second.
Second, MJ. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next is ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Section 2.03.03, Table of Uses to provide for zoning of banquet, meeting hall, event centers, and surface mining. Of course, we heard the changes that are being made there. Can I get a motion for approval? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Excuse me.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to speak on behalf of the timing for an event space. I think we do need to go to midnight. And I'm just speaking on behalf of me as an event space owner. 11 o'clock really doesn't do any justice for someone renting a building. Most parties that I have seen or events that I've seen come through.
MJ, I'm sorry. This particular ordinance are just doing with the table of uses. That's where these can be located. The next item, number 18, will be the ones that if you want to,
Okay.
It would be yeah.
I move we amend the land development code, that number 17.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, next ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Section 1.0902, definitions and adding standards of uses for banquet, meeting halls, and event centers, and surface mining section. MJ, this is what you were just alluding to, so go ahead with your comments.
Yeah, I was saying that I think 11 is going to kind of push tight squeeze on people. Being in the business, I've seen a lot of people, parties really don't start till about 7 or 8, and that's going to limit people, I guess, if they're setting up or, just getting going on whatever event they might be having, and then trying to actually be out the door, I guess, at 11 or whatever it may be. I know at my spaces are around 4-hour movements, so I don't think 12 o'clock would hurt anybody if they could, get out in a timely manner of 12 o'clock.
I agree with that.
So can we took that and then we could put that in the form of a motion to adopt 4.03.32 with the exception of 9 o'clock, it'd be open from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock p.m.
Yep.
That would be your motion? Okay?
Not,
I'm confused on, I don't know where the 12:59 came from, so is it
yeah, I think that was
11:59 or is it 12?
He's saying 12.
I'm just
Regardless
saying,
of what that one says, he's saying midnight.
I'm saying 11:59, 12 o'clock.
I'm just trying to get a motion on the table, a second, and then we can discuss it.
Right. I second.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So the motion on the table is to adopt 4.03.32 with the hours of operation being 9 o'clock a.m. till 12 o'clock p.m.
Right.
Whatever midnight
Whether
is.
it be,
Whichever one midnight.
11:59.
11:59.
Okay,
Okay, that's better, okay, that's cool.
yeah,
good enough.
11:59, right?
yep.
Yeah.
So moved.
We've already got a motion, we
got a
already
motion.
got a second, so.
We second, so let's roll.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody ready to vote? All right, all those in favor of 11:59 time, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, consideration for approval of solid waste contract. Had a lot of discussion about this.
Yeah, so I'll just, recap just on the contract. Council is, would be a 3-year contract for Golden Environmental with a 50-cent increase going to 1991, or a 5-year contract with Ryland Environmental at 1933 per home fixed for 5 years. So that's probably what you need to consider first. Everything else is a bonus. So.
Right, and to MJ's point earlier, should we also add the consideration of the funding for a transfer station?
Yeah, I would, if I could speak.
Yes, sure.
I would definitely like to put more, thought into talking about deeper about the transfer station, whether it be with, who's ever company it may be.
Yeah.
Because I think we all need a little bit more knowledge on the transfer
I
station.
100% agree. And that's, again, I concur with that. The transfer station is just a value added. It's if you want to do the agreement A or agreement B, and A is Golden, B is Ryland Environmental. 3-year and 50-cent increase, a 5-year fixed price for 1933.
Okay. And as far as the transfer station, is this person who we're voting against, is this gonna be the one that we're talking to the transfer station, or we're gonna look at other people when we're gonna talk about the knowledge of a transfer station?
I think we could do both. I think there needs to be some, I think there needs to be some discussion. And again, this doesn't lock Ryland into it if that's your decision.
Okay.
All right, so just for understanding, when we say in consideration of contract, we're talking about the consideration of a contract with a vendor chosen after you get the contract put together, or Ryland? Are we talking about Ryland? Okay. All right, just so I know, everybody knows what you're voting on, okay?
We had, yeah.
Right? Am I-
We need to have we don't have a motion at this point. So we need to have somebody make a motion, right, of which contract, you're gonna go. You going with Ryland, or you gonna get 5-year, or?
Well, we are going to, the Golden contract runs out in December, is that right?
That's correct.
That's
It
right.
expires.
Okay, so we extended that. So now we're going into the contract with Ryland, is that right?
Is that the motion you're making? That's the question, I
Yes.
think. For
You're
5
making a
years for
motion
no
for
increase.
5 years to Ryland.
Yes,
That will be-
let's discuss this. I
Okay.
mean, let's discuss it.
Well, you gotta make a motion to discuss, though.
I move that we discuss it further, and then we can vote on it at our next meeting.
No, we gotta do
No,
something
can't do
tonight.
that.
That's the,
You got
I
me?
think,
You gotta do it.
yeah,
Okay.
the time is of the essence, so
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, isn't it?
yeah, we
So,
can't wait.
3 weeks?
Pete says we can't wait, so we gotta, if you gonna make a motion that we enter into a
We
contract
either
with
move it
Ryland.
now or, yeah. Let's move it now.
All right, so you're making a motion for Ryland for 5-year contract fixed.
Yes.
Conditions of a transfer station included in the contract, right?
Yes.
That's how
I second that.
Okay, so we got a motion, we got a second. Any
Do
further
we have
discussion?
conditions with Ryland, or we gonna talk to other outlets and learn about the transfer
Well,
station?
I don't know you
Transfer
separate,
station
I don't know that you separate the two.
Okay, but I'm saying the transfer station is not in the contract anyway.
It's not in this contract, no.
It's not-
Okay, it's not in
Right.
there.
We
not
could
there.
add, we could add
ask for
that.
it too. That's part of the, I mean,
That's what I'm saying. I just
because
wanted
they've
to-
got these locations all over.
Okay, so it's not in there. The transfer station is not in the contract.
It's
Not this
not
one,
in that
not
contract.
yet, no, sir.
Okay.
All right, so the transfer station is not included, however, his motion states that we will include language for a partnership into the transfer station, correct?
We
That's my
can
motion.
if you'd like to do that,
That's
yes.
correct. That's how I understood it.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Nay? All right. John?
What?
Jack said aye. All right, next will be the resolution for approving intergovernmental agreement for animal control. Let's just take all those and,
Yeah.
because this is all service delivery, strategy here. So resolution for approving the intergovernmental agreement for animal control E911 service. Jail inmate agreement with Tiff County. Service agreement with Tiff County Tax Commissioner. Intergovernmental agreement for election services. And then a joint resolution approving for a revision of the Tiff County service delivery strategy.
So moved. Take all of them at one time.
Second.
Okay. You got a second?
And
Johnny?
MJ's voting.
Jessica, that's good with you? You, all at once, you tracking it? Okay, cool.
Yeah, man,
Rob, and I'll just, for clarification,
Johnny
the
made the
Form
motion.
3 is
I'll
just like
second.
it was, so we could go with it and sign
Yeah.
that one.
With that form? Yeah, okay.
I did. Yes. So everything is locked in for you.
Yeah, yeah. The final revision that I read is what we're voting on, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just making sure. All right, so we got a motion, we got our second. All those in favor, please, God, say aye. Aye. Thank you so much.
Hallelujah.
All right, that's a good day's work right there.
You pointed out MJ, so who seconded, did you accept that?
No, I'll accept an MJ second. I don't accept LSU after we beat them 48-11.
I didn't even know MJ seconded anything. MJ was voting, MJ was voting. He wasn't seconded.
I voted aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I did say so.
The vice mayor didn't know what he was talking about one more time.
Okay, then Jack, I apologize. Jack, you get the second.
Thankfully, the mayor shows up most of the time.
Yeah, let's let the mayor get back to doing this. She's a little bit better than I am at it. All right, executive session?
Tell me no.
No?
No.
No? All right, well,
We
this
done.
meeting is adjourned.
We done.